Have you ever looked at suffering in the world and thought, is God punishing us? It's a fair question. The Bible is filled with moments where people face destruction, exile, or defeat. And throughout history, nations, even God's own people, have collapsed. But what if we've misunderstood something fundamental? What if God doesn't punish in the way we think? What if most of what we call God's punishment is actually the consequence of our own choices? In this video, we'll walk through scripture and history to uncover how God's justice works, why he sometimes steps back, and how judgment and mercy are deeply intertwined. What is God's judgment? The first thing we must understand is this. God's judgment is not revenge. It's not emotional. It's not impulsive. It's the withdrawal of his order and protection when people persist in rebellion. Let's read Romans chapter 1. Paul describes a society descending into chaos, people rejecting truth, embracing immorality, and falling into confusion. But how does God respond? 3 times, Paul repeats the phrase, "Therefore God gave them over." Romans chapter 1, verses 24, 26, 28. Not God struck them, not God cursed them, but God let them go into the fruit of their own desires. This is a form of judgment, but it's not active punishment. It's the consequence of removal. Hebrew insight. The word mishpat, often translated as judgment, actually means to restore order or bring justice. It's not rooted in destruction. It's rooted in alignment. When God brings mishpat, he isn't lashing out. He's putting things back where they belong, even if that process hurts. Israel's exile, judged by the gods they chose. Nowhere is this clearer than in the history of Israel. Let's look at 2 major moments of judgment. 1. The Babylonian exile, 586 BC. Jerusalem was destroyed. The temple burned. The people were dragged into captivity. Did God do this? Yes and no. For centuries, God warned them through prophets, Jeremiah, Isaiah, Ezekiel. Their message was consistent. Turn back. Stop oppressing the poor. Stop worshiping false gods. Return to me. But Israel hardened its heart. Jeremiah chapter 2 verse 19 says, "Your own wickedness will correct you, and your backslidings will rebuke you." God didn't strike them. He simply removed his protection and let Babylon rise. But here's what's sobering. Babylon was the home of the very gods Judah began to worship. Marduk, Ishtar, Molech. These were the gods they brought into God's temple. So God allowed them to be handed over to the gods they had chosen. The same thing happened earlier with the northern tribes. 2. The Assyrian captivity, 7 to 22 BC. The northern kingdom built altars to Baal and Asherah. They burned their children in fire. They made golden calves and called them Yahweh. Prophets like Hosea and Amos begged them to return, but they refused. So God let Assyria, a Baal-worshipping empire, conquer them. This wasn't just conquest. It was poetic justice. You want their gods? Then let their gods save you. As it says in Judges 10, verse 14, "Go and cry out to the gods you have chosen. Let them deliver you." Their idols didn't save them. Their alliances betrayed them, and the very gods they worshipped became the face of their destruction. The nature of consequence. There's a law in God's universe, older than Moses, older than kings, a spiritual law that governs the world even now. Whatever a man sows, that shall he also reap. Galatians 6, verse 7. This isn't karma. This is cause and effect, built into creation itself. If you sow lies, you reap broken trust. If you sow greed, you reap collapse. If a nation sows injustice, it reaps unrest. God does not need to strike with lightning. He only needs to remove his order and let the system rot under its own weight. Proverbs 1:31 says, They shall eat the fruit of their own way and be filled with their own devices. This is how God judges, not as an angry tyrant, but as a wise father who allows his children to feel the cost of rebellion so they might return. Even God's punishment is mercy. But don't mistake this for cruelty. Even when God allows consequence, his heart remains merciful. Lamentations 3:33 says, "He does not willingly bring affliction or grief to anyone." God's desire is never destruction. His goal is always restoration. When Israel was taken to Babylon, God gave them a promise. "I know the plans I have for you, plans to give you a future and a hope." Jeremiah 29:11. Even in judgment, God was planning their return. Hebrew insight. The word for discipline in Hebrew is musar, mivsar. It comes from a root that means to bind or instruct. It's not about wrath, it's about training. God disciplines those he loves. He allows consequence, not to destroy, but to refine. Today's world, judgment or consequence. Look at the world today. Nations collapsing economically, families breaking down, violence and confusion in schools and cities. Truth mocked and lies celebrated. Is God punishing us? Or is he stepping back? Romans chapter 1 repeats, God gave them over. That's what happens when societies choose independence from God. He lets them experience what they've chosen. God is not cruel. He is just. He will not override our free will forever. We are living in the consequences of generations of rejection, of truth, of justice, of God's law. But the door is still open. If we turn, God is still ready to restore. He's not far. He's waiting. To the righteous, don't give up. You might be watching this and wondering, if the world is so broken, if evil wins, then why keep being righteous? And here's the truth. The world is still ruled by the enemy. Jesus called Satan the prince of this world. And for thousands of years, humanity has chosen rebellion, so the consequences remain. That's why doing good doesn't always lead to success. Telling the truth gets you mocked. Living with integrity gets you passed over. And the righteous are often the most exploited of all. But don't give up. Righteousness is not about reward. It's about alignment. When you live righteously, you're aligning with God's original design. You're planting your roots in something eternal. And a day is coming when the King returns and God restores the earth. When justice rolls down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream. And those who stayed faithful, those who endured, they will fit seamlessly into that restored world because they were already aligned with it. Don't abandon righteousness just because the world doesn't reward it. This world is temporary, but the righteous will inherit the new one. So, does God punish us? Not in the way we often imagine. He warns, he waits. He sends messengers, and when we refuse, he lets go. That letting go. That moment when protection lifts, when order breaks down, when we're left with the fruit of our choices. That is judgment. But it is also love, because it is in the ruins, in the exile, in the silence, that we finally remember what we had and who we lost. And to all who turn back, God restores. He heals. He judges not to destroy, but to bring us home. Ezekiel 33:11. As surely as I live, declares the Lord, I take no pleasure in the death of the wicked, but rather that they turn from their ways and live.